And here we are. We're live. We're going to be talking about the biggest movie in the world this weekend. Project Hail Mary, the latest film from Lord and Miller, has surpassed all expectations of success, both here in the States and around the world. People are in love with Ryan Gosling once again in a big budget space adventure. It's got a cuddly little sidekick. And by the way, we're going to be talking full spoilers here tonight, gang. So if you don't know anything about Project Hail Mary, I advise you to turn back and check it out when you do have a chance to watch it. It's going to be no surprise that I'm approaching this from the perspective of someone who read the novel by Andy Weir, who also wrote the Martian, which was turned into a film. Oh, it was more than a decade ago, I think, with Matt
2015.
Damon. Yeah. Wow. Oh, how time flies.
Yeah.
And I finished reading the novel the day that I went to see the movie, and just wanted to put this out there to no one's surprise. I was not a fan of the film.
Shit.
However,
Okay.
in a rare turn of events, I was not 100% a fan of the novel. And I think one of my issues that I kind of spotted when I first saw the trailer for Project Hail Mary, before I even knew anything about the book, was the tone. And there are elements of this kind of lightheartedness that is in the trailer, and it's also in the novel. But what Lord and Miller did, and these are the people who gave us 21 Jump Street and the Lego Movie and other kind of romps, is they accentuate the comedy, I think, at the expense of the drama, and most critically, the science fiction elements, which
Sound
are
like Jeff
all
York.
but gone from this almost 2.5 hour film, which is weird because the book, even at 476 pages, reads like a movie. So we're going to talk about it all tonight. I am going to be, and I'm totally comfortable with this position, being in the minority of the opinion for this film. So we're going to hash it out with people who have read the book, people who have not read the book, people who may love the novel and hate the movie, or hate the novel and love the movie. I don't know. We're just we're stepping out into the unknown here. But again, we are talking full spoilers. We are Earth's Mightiest Critics. I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have Don Shanahan of Film Obsessive and the Cinephile Hissy Fit podcast, and Every Movie Has a Lesson, and a billion other things. We have Jeff York of The Establishing Shot and Pipeline Artists. We also have Mike Crowley of You'll Probably Agree, aka YPA Reviews, and we have the blonde in front, Katie Glidewell herself, representing, and yes, she is Knuff.
I am Knuff.
I'm surprised
rock
there's
out
not-
to this review.
There you go.
Well, I did not. I was kind of surprised that there wasn't sort of like a Ken Project Hail Mary crossover merch or something like that.
I got my NASA shirt on.
At times it felt like
You
it.
know, I
Yeah.
was looking. I have a
mine.
NASA shirt and I couldn't find it, so I was like, you
I
know
got
what?
my
This is Knuff.
Teacher in space
and-
badge here.
Oh,
I'm
very
doing,
nice.
Oh,
I'm
that's
doing what I'm
cool.
doing.
Is that related? Is that just a NASA thing, or is that related to Project
Yeah,
Hail Mary somehow?
That's a NASA thing I got in Houston a year back. So yeah.
Oh,
Down
that's
at,
cool.
Oh, that's
the Space
awesome.
Center.
Wow.
And I'm a teacher. Come on. So yeah. I'm not going in space though. Nope. No. I get car sick in minivans, let alone to shuttle
Yeah.
26,000 miles a second. Yeah.
Katy
I
Perry
got all-
did it. You can do it, Don. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
William
that's okay.
Shatner
Katy
did
Perry.
it. You
Pass.
can do it.
Yeah. William
Well-
Shatner is beyond all of us. He's an angel.
Just
As
turned
Clint
95.
Eastwood, as Clint Eastwood once said, "Man's got to know his limitations." So
I do. Yep, I'll
bravo.
stay in the
on
class.
you, Don.
Mhm.
All right. So
Second Dirty Harry.
Project Hail Mary, it's a fascinating premise for a novel and for a film, because what it's about doesn't really reveal itself to the audience until quite far along into the story. What we know is that Earth's sun is gradually dimming because of best I can describe it as a celestial microorganism that's been nicknamed astrophage. Basically, these particles live on the sun, and they've got a very bizarre mating pattern, and they grow at an exponential rate. So within 30 years, it's predicted by Earth scientists, that the astrophage will dim the sun to the point where it's probably going to be a new ice age. But before we even get to that, there's going to be resource problems, species dying, wars, famine, apocalyptic stuff. So the best minds in the world put their muscle behind one woman whose name is Strat. And she has the power to bring the resources of every nation, every corporation, every entity around together to build a ship whose mission is to go out to find the cause of this astrophage, because it turns out there are other solar systems, other stars that are also being affected by this. One is in deep space, several light years away from where we are. The problem is it's a suicide mission because you can only go so far out and have enough fuel to get out there, but not necessarily to come back. It's also risky because the one star that is not exhibiting this astrophage problem is called Tau Ceti. It's unclear if scientists going out there would even be able to discover why it was so special or find a cure that would matter to Earth. And also it's a race against time because, again, once you get out to the depths of space, if it takes a 30-year round trip, will there even be people back on the planet with the technology and the aliveness to receive this information and do anything but mankind? So those are the stakes. The film opens with our main character, Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling, waking up on this ship. It's a crew of 3. The other 2 crew members are dead, and he has amnesia. And in the novel, it is a book-length journey pretty much for himself and for the reader to figure out what exactly happened. He keeps getting bits of his memory back in these kinds of fits and spurts, but it's just as much a mystery as to what led to his losing his memory as it is to him, which makes for a fascinating kind of narrative device. That's touched on in the movie, but it doesn't have nearly as strong a through line, and I think the resolution is not as dramatic as what's in the novel, but that could be said for a lot of the story elements here. When our hero gets out to Tau Ceti, he encounters another spacecraft, one that wasn't sent from Earth, but sent from another planet, and this is where the twist comes in. There's an alien critter on it who is nicknamed Rocky because he looks like basically a rock spider, doesn't have any eyes. He speaks in sort of like sounds like music almost, that our protagonist is able to translate through a device, translate that into English, get a cute little voice going, and they develop a relationship. It becomes a buddy comedy where these 2 scientists, sort of, although Rocky is more of an engineer than a scientist, but they come together to try and save both the worlds because his planet is suffering the same fate as Earth. Will they survive? What will be left of them after their ordeal is over, to paraphrase the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? We find out in Planet Hail Mary, a film that I think would have been much better written and directed by Christopher Nolan's team, because you can't help but think of Interstellar and a couple of, Sunshine by Danny Boyle, Let's Save the Planet from a dying sun or some kind of a natural catastrophe. This is more of a family/kids movie with a lot of jokes that I think kind of undermine the seriousness of it. Now, I've been monologuing for 9 minutes, so I'm going to turn this over to Don Shanahan.
All right.
Who is the resident teacher, because
I am middle school science teacher, the whole deal. Yeah.
So tell me, what did you make of Project Hail Mary? And first, did you read the novel?
I did not.
Okay.
Yeah. I did not read the novel, familiar enough with it to where I could kind of pace and follow along. I knew about the hopscotching structure between the the recovered memories, so to speak, and then the current conundrum. So that was fine. When you say Nolan and you say Danny Boyle and folks like that, who Denis Villeneuve, like a serious hand for this movie, I'm welcome with the fact that it's not, that this isn't serious. I'm welcome with the fact that this is an approachable take to this kind of story, and it's still PG-13 enough, but soft enough PG-13 that I can't wait to take my children to it. I can't wait to advertise it as I already have at school with my current students who are impressionable middle schoolers who are trying to figure out how to love science and try to love science fiction along the way. And this is just hit. I mean, maybe it's the teacher in me, but at the same time, it just like the approachableness is, the every movie has a less than youth inspired guy where this hits me right between the eyes. This is a fantastic. I rarely do the whole. I'm not a masterpiece guy. You know me. I'm not that person. But
Right.
can I be the guy that says like instant classic, like the kind of thing that will get easy replay, the kind of thing that
getting
can like,
pretty close to masterpiece.
No.
Those are two instant classic. That's in the same general like classic.
Well,
much
here
like masterpiece needs to have some time, but
No.
there's no
For
such thing as an
me, it's
instant
like
classic.
for me, it's the rewatchability more than the the perfectness of craft. Because masterpiece and instant classic to me are Grand Canyon apart.
But they're both like bits of hyperbole that are very hard to just say after the movie's been out a week.
Yeah, no. But like something like when you got a big exciting movie that makes people excited and it makes people get excited for pretty quickly and in a way that like, hey, I can't wait to share the word, and the word of mouth kinds of things, where that's kind of where I go to instant classic. And like I treat it in that kind of way where like, yeah, let's see where the legacy can go. But for a while here, it's fun to kind of ride that ride. It's fun to see, I kind of said in my review where like I felt like I was watching for a different age of myself. Like I feel like I'm watching somebody's new favorite movie, like a 12-year-old kid who walks into this where this is their ET, this is their Interstellar, this is their Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This is their spot where the right age group in the right era can grab into this movie and be like, hey, this one's for us. This one was made for us and this one's ours. And it's not that us adults can't come back to those feelings of when we saw something like that for us, but like I love that this movie has a little bit of that magic and that power to it so quickly. And then for the rewatchability for me, it's like I would put this in a classroom tomorrow, the same way I would many other things that have some science to it. Like as much as I can advertise a movie like this, I would advertise like A Million Miles Away with Michael Pena. Like I mean, it doesn't always have to be whiz bang pow. It can just be, hey, what's a good story that a kid can get out of here today, especially here and now, where we have such a hard time grabbing their attention that this movie can so readily. At the same time, I can say that is, I won't go masterpiece by any means, because like that does take time, that takes expertise, that takes perfectness of craft, and we're not there, and we're not going to be there. But you just kind of, I don't know. I've been around this long enough where when you watch one and you just see it and go, man, you know it when you see it. And this is a movie that I don't think is going away. Like Sinners was this last year, where when you see it, like this is a movie people are going to talk about long enough and come back to enough because there was something there that grabbed them, and that was enough. Again, if this movie doesn't need to win Oscars to do that, it already has it, and that's okay with me. Before it's a damn masterpiece, because it's way too soon for that stuff.
I'll take it. I think that's it's the it movie. It's capturing the zeitgeist. I think that's totally fair. I totally get where you're coming from, and I'm going to talk in a little bit about the problem I think inherent in what you're saying. I'm not saying anything that you're saying is wrong, but I think there's a big problem with it, and we'll talk about that in terms of why adapt a novel. That's the question I'm going to put out there. Let's see, Mike Crowley, YPA Reviews, sir, down there in the corner.
Down in the corner.
I don't think I've heard any reaction from you.
I don't think I have.
All right. Well, no, I gave it because it's been so long ago since I saw it. I think it was like 3 weeks ago or something like that.
You went to an early screening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I liked it a lot. I think it is hyperbolic when people say instant classic and stuff like that, because then you kind of put it in this mob mentality where, like, if you don't love it as much as everyone else does, then they're going to hate you. And I hope this movie doesn't create those kind of crowds, because it has a possibility that. And I will say, I have not seen a movie that has a relationship between a human and an alien that felt this believable, this palpable, this beautiful since E.T. And the effects, of course, are incredible. My main issue with the movie was not so much the tone, although it did feel a little too much like it was like, oh, please like us kind of thing. But at the same time, it fit sort of the lighter atmosphere that Chris Miller and or Phil Lord and Chris Miller were going for. I thought the structure was a bit of an issue. Like the whole "how did we get here" thing, I felt like we could have condensed or not really have had, because the big payoff to that is just that the guy gets arrested and forced to be put in the space shuttle. Like we could have maybe have started with that and then seen how he got there, because the way his memory is recovering, we don't really see it recovering. We just kind of randomly cut to these other scenes from the past that led up to there, and like all that stuff, like his I guess you could say his professional relationship with Sandra Huller's character and all that, like that, it was okay, but like the real meat of the story is between Rocky and Grace, and that stuff is grand slam fantastic. Except I thought the ending was a little cheesy. But yeah, this movie was a little bit like a mixture between like Interstellar and E.T. And that's okay. Every movie feels like a mixture or something, especially space movies. I don't think anybody would want to make something that feels like Solaris, although they try to remake it and it didn't work out. So yeah, to me, it wasn't a 4-star movie. I gave it a 3.5, but it was very good. Little too many montages. Sometimes I didn't get what the big millionth climactic scene was about. But I have to say, it's a movie I would like to rewatch, and it's one that you should see on, dare I say it, digital cinema, IMAX, because it was shot for that, and it looks gorgeous.
All right. Katie, I know you are a big, this is it's not just instant classic, not just masterpiece. This is going on your list, I think, for 2026. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say. I
All right.
told you. And yeah, right now, this is my number one film of the year. I also saw it 3 weeks ago. I have been telling everyone, if you go and see a film in the theater, this is the film to see. It is made for IMAX. It is made for 70 millimeter. It is made to be seen in a theater with the best sound, with the best visual. And I thought it was spectacular. And I too am going to use Interstellar and E.T., but I'm going to say Castaway mixed with Interstellar, mixed with E.T., and a little bit Shutter Island with the whole memory thing. And I liked the way that they use the gaps in his memory to also show what was going on Earth and how that came about, and especially when the reveal came of how he got there, because that is a very traumatic experience. It's one of those things that kind of like Deadpool, he's super and he's a hero, but he's not a superhero. Like, this wasn't his end game. Wasn't what he was supposed to do. And I feel like that is very human. And especially when you're dealing with, space and an alien, to see what he went through and to have that. I mean, that's a traumatic experience just when we find that out. And then when you realize when he wakes up on the ship, not knowing how he got there, I actually think that's sort of a blessing that he got there. But I think the special effects are amazing. I think Rocky, I've told everybody, you're going to have a rock that's going to make you cry. And, it is a beautiful relationship. And, just the fact that that's not CGI, I think they said that was practical effects with the puppet of Rocky.
Puppetry. Yeah.
I think that is
CG in there.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be in the running for Best Picture. I'm going to say that it is March, and I'm going to say it's going to be in the running. I think this possibly could be the role that even with his multiple Ryan Gosling signature screams, I think this may be the role that gets him that gold. It's early on. I could say I'm saying it right now. I think he's probably going to get nominated for this, because the fact that we are so intently watching him, and at no point am I bored ever when he's with Rocky, when he's just talking straight to the camera. Like I said, I think it's very human. I think it's mixed with humor. And honestly, the main thing I think this film has, that what the world really needs right now, is it's filled with hope. And whatever's going on politically, economically, everything right now. We need a film that gives people that sense of hope. And I think Project Hail Mary does that. And plus, I love the fact that Drew Goddard is one of my favorite screenwriters and directors. He's made one of my favorite movies, A Cabin in the Woods. So knowing, and I can tell the little idiosyncrasies in his script that just make it a Drew Goddard, screenplay. He just does that mixed with the book. I can just really tell. And I thought this was great. And I also did not know Harry Styles sang that song. So even though it's a very popular song, I had no idea Harry Styles was the one who sang it. So that was a plus for me. But yeah, I'm planning on seeing this for a third time, probably this weekend. And that says a lot, because if I'm going to pay for a movie, we all know we see these, at screenings all the time. If I'm paying to see a movie, that means it's a damn good movie, people. So it's up there. And I would say, even though it's March, we've got so many films that it's definitely probably going to be in my top 10 for the rest of the year.
All right.
Oh, by the way, I don't read, so I did not read the book. We all know that.
Well, and honestly,
I am illiterate. I know. Machina. But I don't read, so I don't know anything about the book. I'm just watching the movie.
And I think that is really, it's not a personal attack, because there are a lot of people who say that, and I think you're missing out. The book is more of the movie that you all are describing than the actual movie we got. And we can talk a little bit more about that. But before we do that, Jeff York, you have to weigh in here, sir.
Well, thank you. I liked a lot of it. I think all the points that the previous panelists have made are excellent ones. I don't really disagree with what they're saying, the core essence of their raves about what they like about it. I also think some of that is taken too far, and that's what kept me from loving this film. And to me, it is a tone problem, and I think tonality is an issue that films have a lot of problems with these days. I think we're afraid to be serious. I think we're afraid to be dark and heavy. We want to always wink at the audience and let them know, hey, we're going to take care of you. We're not letting you go home crying or feeling bad. And there's nothing wrong with that to some degree. People go to movies to be entertained, but we can be entertained by sad tragedy too. Most love stories that you think about in the movie world that people love don't end happy. And that says something right there, that genre is leaving people crying at the end, not tears of joy. I like all the things that everybody said, but to me, they've also sort of hit the nail on the head. And that is, this man is, he's a scientist. He's not really prepared for all this stuff. He's basically coerced, conned, basically, sort of assaulted and put on this ship. And I know the revelation of that comes late, but it's a very tragic kind of beginning of the space adventure for this man. And to your point, him not only being stuck in a situation like that where he doesn't know what's really going on, but he's also had some of his mind altered by drugs to give him amnesia, which is, to me, that's a crime. And then, the fact that the two astronauts who are there to really manage the ship stuff, he's now got to do all on his own. The first hour of this movie, I was actually cringing in my seat because I was feeling how awful that must be. It was making me uncomfortable. And then I thought, because I didn't read the book, I didn't see the trailer, I didn't know anything about it coming in. And then I thought when they introduced the alien, he was kind of scary. Like you didn't know what he was and you didn't know if you could communicate with him. And I love that they used science to kind of get there with him. And, he didn't have the typical sort of looks human anthropomorphic stuff that we've so gotten used to, whether it's E.T. or Star Trek or anything like that. So I thought kudos for them for these choices, which I think are very interesting. But then they started to make little things that I think I dare say, maybe for me, it wasn't death by 1,000 paper cuts, but it was a star or a half star, a star and a half drop off for me that kept me from loving it and sort of disappointed in it. There's too much shtick. It's one thing to have Rocky be able to imitate him, but then when he starts doing the dancing stuff and they keep doing that, and then they're doing that together on board the ship, it's a little much. It's a little silly. And, this is a scientist, Rocky is, who's also an astronaut, and he's better than Grace is. I'm not so sure I would be talking down to him like he's some sort of sidekick or kid brother, but that's what he does in it. And then there's things that get a little bit weird too, and I think, dare I say, a little, I know this is going to sound crazy, but vaudevillian, because they have this communication issue, which is kind of a running gag where Rocky is saying, is this the word? Is this the word? I just want to get the word right because I realize you're kind of not sure about all this. But then they milk that so much. Like there's that one scene where he goes into the room and it's kind of a mess and everything like that. And Rocky goes, dirty, dirty, dirty. Is this the place where you store garbage? Dirty, dirty. It's too much. Half of that would have been enough. And I just think that starts to get it into Short Circuit. It starts to get it into E.T. It starts to get it into this sort of bro comedy. And then, dude, and we're wearing funny hats and sunglasses. And my God, the world is about to end. You're there with dead bodies that you lovingly have given this send-off to and a funeral to, which I think is very moving in the first hour. And now we've got enough time to horse around and rag on each other, and it's like The Odd Couple or Rush Hour or something. And I just felt they lost the plot a little bit. I mean, I know the plot is still there. They have to figure this thing out, but it's very complicated. Rocky's ship doesn't look anything like a ship that we've ever seen before. I found that scary and intimidating. The darkness here, when Rocky is getting burned and stuff, that keeps pulling it back to seriousness, but they keep pulling it back to this sort of humor. And for me, it was a little bit too obvious and maybe, I dare say, cheap. Yes, it makes it very popular, I'm sure, for kids. But, the fact that they've got the bucket all ready, for the shape of it, and he's in there, and they're going to probably have all kinds of stuff, plush toys, and everything else.
I hope.
Yeah, exactly, Katie. You're a big kid. I love that.
I want Rocky animatronics.
Yeah, I just felt that they missed an opportunity, I dare say, to, I think, give it a little more gravitas. I think it's got quite a bit of it considering everything. But I'll tell you the comparison to me, and maybe this is where I'm wrong because I don't think it's as well regarded as it really should be today. In fact, I think it's kind of an almost forgotten classic, masterpiece, to use the two words we were throwing about earlier. But for me, when I was in high school, I saw Close Encounters, and there was some charm and some elements that were humorous in there, even a little bit of cuteness, like when they're doing the bum, 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 and it breaks the window, things like that. They're funny, but they seem in context. Like, okay, this is sort of serious still, even though, that loud note blasted it, but we don't know what these people are doing. They're invading our world. We communicate with the music, and we think we've developed a simple scene to them. And they take that. My favorite scene is where they kind of do the riff where they start playing the diddly diddly diddly, and it's like this, almost instant Mozart kind of piece that the alien is doing, because that's how much smarter he is than us. Mm-hmm. And I love that sort of sense of like, it's a privilege for us to go on that ship and go and see what their world is, because we're not even there. And I thought there was a lot of that here, and yet at every time. And again, I like Ryan Gosling. He might get an Oscar nomination. You're very right about that, Katie. He's very good in this. He's on screen the entire time, virtually alone, except for Rocky, of course. And that's not a real human that he's interacting with, so I'm sure it was a tough shoot. But, he's a little bit of that Ryan Gosling, the frost tips hair and the tan, and, he's Mr. Macho, even though he's supposed to be a nerdy scientist because they want him to be a heartthrob. And, he's kind of got the dude bro thing going with Rocky. And I don't know. I just felt that some of that started to creep into his performance too. It's like, are you a scientist or are you Ryan Gosling? So for me, those little things kept bringing it a little bit down. I admire a lot of it, everything you said, but I didn't love it for those reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I can't fault the film for its aesthetics or its casting. I mean, for me, it all comes down to the screenplay. And specifically, I mean, I think the best example of that is the Strat character, because in the novel, she is ice cold. She doesn't joke around. She has no relationship with Grace that is anything except professional. In the movie, when Sandra Huller starts singing karaoke, I almost got up and left the theater. because if they're going to do that to this character in the middle of the movie, then they're going to mess up the most important scene that they have together, which is the scene at the end where we find out that he was basically forced to go on this mission. Now, in the book, and this is where the structure and the tone are very important, because as I mentioned, there's a big mystery about his amnesia that is at the forefront, and it never goes to tertiary. It's always at least primary or secondary in terms of everything else that's going on. Is who is he? How did he get there? And why? What happened to him? Because you also wonder, did something happen to the rest of the crew that for some reason didn't affect him? Was it radiation? Did they get thrown around? What is it? And then when you find out, no, it was none of that. He was basically drugged and put onto this ship against his will. It's a terrifying moment. And it's compounded in the moment of revelation, because it plays out, the initial part plays out the way it does in the movie, where he goes into this conference room, everybody from the mission is there, and they're all looking at him funny. And they're like, okay, you are the only person, because two of the other scientists on the backup crew, there's a primary scientist and the backup crew had a scientist as well. They both get wiped out in this horrifying accident. And so the only person that's left is him. And they said, you've got 3 hours to make your decision. So he comes back, and in the novel, he comes and he just flat out refuses. And he's kind of doing it, he's the school teacher, but when he goes into Strat's office, he is very much the student who can't look teacher in the eye because he knows that he's doing something wrong. And he's trying to make excuses and all this other stuff. And Strat just looks at him and says, you're a coward. And she gives him this full-blown dressing down. She berates him. She emasculates him. And he doesn't even really put up a fight, except to say, I've made up my mind, I'm not going. Now, in the movie, and this, Jeff and Katie, we were at the same screening last week. When he says he's essentially made his decision, she says, okay. And then she calls for a guard to come in. And it was a laugh moment in the theater. Now, the mood changed within a few seconds because a group of people come in and start manhandling him. And then it gets serious. And then it ping-pongs back to silliness when he's climbing up on the desk and backing his way across the bookshelf. And then he storms out of the room and they chase him. And then there's that whole comedic thing where he's running through the yard and they comedy tackle him and then they take him away. That moment in the book is a moment of sheer horror because he gets dragged away to a cell and kept there for 9 days because they're like, you're not going anywhere. We can't trust you to be free. We're going to have to basically keep you in this cell. You've made your decision. We're going to drug you and then load you onto the ship. And that moment when Strat comes into the cell with the person who's going to administer the drug, there's a real hatred between these two people. And it's a hatred that carries throughout the rest of the novel and also informs the final scene, which also thematically is betrayed by the end of this movie. I also want to mention, I like Drew Goddard as well. Cabin in the Woods, I think, is a very strong screenplay. I love that movie. But it is unforgivable to take the last 100 pages of a 476-page book and condense them into 15 minutes of screen time. You lose most of the science, you lose all of the drama, because during the time that it's wasted on karaoke, on dance montages, on, hey, let's go to Lowe's and have bowling tournaments in the aisles with my wacky government issue sidekick Carl. None of that was in the book. He does go to Lowe's to get stuff to build this box that he has to test the astrophage, but it's literally, I checked out, I went to the hardware store, I came back and I got to work. 2 sentences. As opposed to 3 minutes of screen time compounded by all the other wastes of time that sacrifice character development and story. The great thing about Project Hail Mary, the book, is it does start off with a bit of lightheartedness because Ryland Grace is the cool science teacher. You very much get the sense that Andy Weir, who is in real life an actual engineer, he's a brilliant guy who, when he wrote his first book, The Martian, it became a runaway success. He's like, I'm quitting and becoming a writer. Project Hail Mary came out, the book, in 2019, and it very much feels like someone who loves Arthur C. Clarke, but also grew up in an environment of Marvel movies. It's very much that silly kind of he's standing right behind me, isn't he humor. But the thing is, that begins to degrade the further into the story you get, because Rocky and Grace get into some real trouble. And every time they think they've got a ray of hope, something happens that sets them back 5 steps. And it's about them trying to figure things out using science, using ingenuity. The entire thing about the Tau'amoeba, which is the entity that they discover that eats the astrophage, there is so much discovery and problems that result from that discovery in the novel that I don't understand how you take that out of this movie.
I do.
Help me out.
Have you ever read The Wizard of Oz?
Yeah.
You seen the 1939 movie of The Wizard of Oz?
Yeah.
I softened the shit out of that book. So I mean,
but here's the thing. No, what I'm saying is
artist intent to make a movie that sells, and that's no one wants to watch that. So
Don, here's where you're wrong. Okay.
Okay.
The book Project Hail Mary sold probably tens of millions of copies. Yeah. It is the reason they wanted to make a film adaptation of it. Now, a lot of people love this, but a lot of people have not read the book. And I think, as we've discussed a lot of film adaptations of books in the last couple of years on this show.
Just this year alone. You know what I mean?
I mean, you can talk about The Bride, you can talk about Wuthering Heights, you can talk Project Hail Mary.
Right.
The only reason that I think people are not out in the street with torches is because Hollywood made a very reasonable calculation, which is books are just product. They are IP.
They are a different medium entirely.
People claim to read them, but they don't really. And the people who read a lot of books tend to not really give a crap about horribly made adaptations. So they figure,
and the movie lovers don't give a crap about you book people either. So I mean,
but here's the problem. I
don't want to be the Timothy Chalamet of the panel here. Sorry, my books are great, but here's books are great. But no, like
he says after he's already secured the
but no, you are. I mean, we've seen this forever. 90% of the time, if not more, things are impossible to chapter and verse bring into a different medium called movies. You just can't, and you don't.
Here's the thing.
You find a through line. You find something that sells. This is a business first and an art exposition second, and it has been since we charged tickets. I'm sorry. They made I can't fault them for making a fun thing.
I understand. Well, okay. You can't fault them for making a fun thing. I get it. But what if that thing... But what if that thing is not supposed to be fun?
Okay? Oh, but we've got enough
here's
deadly
the thing.
serious movies. We just went through an Oscar season of how many foreign films were absolutely horrifyingly tough. Like, lighten up, Francis. We can make it through a cute movie for once. Like, give us one.
No, but here's the thing. There are movies and stories that are meant to be cute, and then there are other stories that are most definitely not. I mean,
sure.
There's a reason that people talk about The Dark Knight as a masterpiece. And they talk about Batman and Robin as one of the worst creative decisions ever made.
Sure,
so you can take a story of the Batman and interpret it many different ways, but there are also incorrect ways to interpret it. And Project Hail Mary as a story, as I mentioned, it reads like a movie. I understand there have been adaptations that have changed things, but my personal rule, and I understand this is completely subjective, if you're going to take a story that is very popular, again, popular enough to get the attention of a Hollywood studio to say, we're going to spend probably $250 million to put this into movie theaters. If you're going to mess around and change the exact point of the story, then you need to replace it with something that is at least thematically true to it, or just say, hey, we're not adapting Project Hail Mary. We're going to make Ryan Gosling and his rock buddy sidekick space movie.
These are all artistic choices. I mean, one of the few examples I cite a lot of times where a movie improves upon a book is Field of Dreams. Because the entire time in that book that Dad's there. He's one of the players. Difficult relationship. Kevin Costner's character has a twin brother. He picks up 3 other people before he shows up back in Iowa. There's a whole lot more. and it's darker, uglier family or history, and it's complicated with brothers and dads. But as a movie experience, no one wants to watch that. But you find a through line, you shift a few things to make something that is entertaining, something engrossing, and you make some choices that can make you a superior thing to entertain because it's a different medium. I can't chapter and verse some of these things when in certain ways that it's done, you make some artistic broad choices, big swings, big cuts that turn out to be just fine for what for the aim is. And the aim of movies is to be that escapist entertainment, to be that inspiring thing of it. And I do hope what you hope, that people come out of this movie and go read a harrowing book to follow it. Like the folks that I can't wait to read the book. I enjoyed The Martian. I did the book after the movie, and it added to my love for the movie more than subtracted from it. And I think a savvy audience can go, hey, I'm glad I got that movie at the same time. There's a richer, deeper experience over here in the book, and I can keep them separated.
Well, I think the problem is the percentage of the audience that is going to want to go out and read the book after seeing the movie is quite small. Especially,
and here I'll go back to supporting the book card. You never know.
But here's the thing, right? There's because reading a book, as you have said, Katie, or suggested, is quite an endeavor. Instead of seeing this movie for the third time this weekend, you could get a quarter away through the novel.
He just finger you to read a book.
Well, the idea is, I've seen the movie. Why do I need to read the book? The book is 476 pages. It's long.
For a richer, different experience. I've enjoyed going back to books movies I love.
I'm straw manning the position, Don. I'm saying the average moviegoer who is making this $180 million success is not going to go out and read the book. They might buy the book, but it's probably going to sit on their shelf until the next, until Mario comes out. No, I'm going to go see that and probably tell the book it happens.
Give people a chance.
The book right now is sold out. I do know that. I know a lot of people have said, and I think over the weekend they said the book's sold out, and that I've actually been told I've been told by a friend of mine that the book on tape of this is actually one of the best interpretations of a book that they have talked about, or that they know of, and that they told me that it's like that you probably can't find the book. It's like spend some time and do the book on tape. And I was like, I might be able to do that. I don't know.
My daughter is on the wait list for the library system of the burbs here, like Eisenhower and Norwich and all that. She's number 423 in line.
Yeah.
So it's working. And I think here's the thing. The right movie that comes along and hits you square in the face in a great way can inspire you enough to go read a book you might not normally want to read. And because we don't see that happening with Wuthering Heights. We don't see that happening with The Housemaid. We don't see that happening with Frankenstein. But we're seeing it with this. We'll see it with Harry Potter. Like, the right movie comes along and it will do the work for you that you're hoping for. Give it time.
Well, I mean, as far as Project Hail Mary, I can also say, people should read Wuthering Heights. They should read Frankenstein.
Yeah. Oh, no.
That is also, I think, the challenge, because, again, we're talking about a novel that's from 2019. It is written in a contemporary language. It is not a challenging book. It's a good book. And the plot, I think, is top-notch. And the themes and what it says is very challenging in some respects, but it also is a popcorn book, right? It takes work to read Wuthering Heights and Frankenstein, but it also gives you a giant reward. Not quite the reward you get at the end of Project Hail Mary, but it'd be interesting to see. And you can't conduct this on a mass scale because, again, you unless you paid people for a study, people who watched the book or watched the movie, read the book, and then either went back and rewatched the movie or just talked about the differences. Does the film hold up to the novel? And is that even fair because the movie's already in their head?
Yeah. I say it's never fair because it's a different medium. Like, I've come away from this always separating because it's just, you're never going to get the book. It's
right, but here's the thing, Don.
You get a TV miniseries here.
But you're talking about science. That is an unfair experiment, unless you're reading the book in conjunction with the film, not necessarily before, but at least after. Because again, it's hard to have this conversation because I'm the only one on the panel who's read the novel. So I don't have anyone to say you're overblowing this. The novel is right in line with the book or with the film, which we can have a bit of back and forth. But it's like I'm screaming into the depths of space.
Yeah, leave it a movie.
how much richer and more cinematic and moving Project Hail Mary is on the page than on the screen, and also being frustrated that there is no reason, the stuff that they would need to cut out in order to adapt this successfully is math, because there's a lot of talk about them doing science experiments, and they go through, I think, like 85 iterations of Tau Amoeba before they get to the formula that's going to help save Rocky's planet specifically. It's compelling stuff. It's interesting, but it's not cinematic. And there's ways that you can kind of trim that down into a montage instead of, again, to Jeff's point, dancing.
There was a point to the film that sort of lost my interest, where they were doing so many experiments and it was so much about the science, where it's like, yeah, I'm interested in following it, but I felt like I was watching the same scene again and again and again. They try an experiment, they fail. They try an experiment, they fail. Big cinematic, like, things flying at the screen to, capture the audience attention. And I think the whole plot of how Ryan Gosling wound up getting abducted and thrown into space would have been more dramatic if that movie kept this comedic tone, which I do enjoy. I do like kind of the lighter tone to it. It makes you love, Grace and Rocky. But yeah, when he's being arrested, I do agree with Ian that that was a scene where that needed a lot more weight to it, because that's a horrifying thing that's happening. And it kind of goes into like this whole like Bugs Bunny territory where he's jumping up on the shelves and he's like, oh no, don't arrest me. And he's doing his like high pitched Ryan Gosling girl scream thing. But if they just cut down a little bit of that, I think the movie would have been interesting. I think this film, like, it could have been reduced by about 30 minutes and it would have been much stronger. And if there was material in the book that would have brought in much more characterization, that would have enhanced the mystery of how Ryan Gosling wound up in space, that would have made it much better than it was. But yeah, unfortunately, I think it focused more on sort of the visually appealing elements rather than more the narratively ones. Let
me build on what Mike is saying, because I have been thinking of that as I was listening to you and Don talk, Ian. I'm wondering too, and maybe this is a question for the panel here, would the film have lost that much by doing some judicious cutting? For example, do you need the low scene? No, you don't. I mean, that's a silly scene. It's a time waster. If it's supposed to show us that he's a real person and that, hey, there's some camaraderie even, in this we've got to save the world thing, so be it. But there's other places to do that. There's shorter things that can do that. And I think a tighter script might have done that. I also dare say that I think some of the things that you were missing here, Ian, would come through more if there wasn't so much other stuff in here. Like, I think, you just said, Mike, I like the relationship between Grace and Rocky. I did too, and I think I liked it just fine at about the 2/3 mark.
Yeah.
And then it became irritating, and then it became short circuit. And I just wonder if it needed all that. I mean, I think what Katie, you said about, you feel for this person, and then there's this alien, and he ends up being somebody that he can communicate with. He does become a friend. Great, I love that too. I mean, remember the alien at the end of Close Encounters, once he does that, smiles as Francois Truffaut gives him a smile, and he imitates the smile back. A little of that goes a long way, I think, in these things. But my other thing that sort of like I sort of said in my assessment of it is, I think they overdo it. Like, I'm not sure they have the confidence in the material here. Like, you can do some things once and it plays. You don't have to do it three times to make it play. And I think they overdo some of the bits here. Maybe they didn't have the confidence in it or whatever. I think Ryan Gosling would have been perfectly likable and relatable and everything else without doing some of the Ryan Gosling Saturday Night Live shtick he does. I don't think him screaming like a girl during that scene is right. It does become comical, and people did laugh during that scene, and it ain't funny at all. And it's like just some of those kind of director's choices, editing choices. I'll just tell you quickly, I told Ian this last week when we were talking about this. I know a friend who worked on Seabiscuit, and he said that script and the performances was an Academy Award-winning Best Picture. And the way the director directed it and edited it, it only became a Best Picture nominee. And I think there's a little of that going on here. Like, this is a great story, great characters. It's an interesting dynamic. They don't have him giving the transmissions home in the book. That's a movie trope, dare I say, Don, because that's what a movie does, because you can't get inside his head here, so he's got to say it. And I just once wanted to hear him say, this alien knows more than me. And I'm not sure that after this that he might just say, you know what, thanks a lot, and I've got my planet saved now, you're on your own, pal. A suggestion like that to make me wonder, yeah, this is maybe his friend, but he's still all alone. He was alone before. To me, if you said, what is the theme of this? It's not only save the world, but it's like, how do you overcome loneliness and sort of connect? And I think he connected with Rocky just fine. And we realize Rocky's a good guy when he tries to save him and endangers his life. Grace saves him back by just watching him. Rocky's already set up how he's going to heal. He's, sequestered himself in that pod and knows what he has to do. But Grace is going to watch and make sure he's okay. I get it. I think all this other stuff, gilding the lily.
Well, there's an extra layer to that moment, Jeff, that is something that was really, it's a brain tickler in the book that's completely left out here. And it goes to the idea that Andy Weir was getting at in his novel, which is this is an alien creature that cannot be understood by people. Right. And it reminds me of what Ridley Scott and Dan O'Bannon in his script did with the original Alien. It was something that no one had ever seen before, and couldn't. It was full of surprises at every turn, from the way it was birthed to the way it bled, to what it ultimately wanted. That scene where Rocky saves Grace and is himself put into danger because his atmosphere is pure ammonia. So he can't breathe oxygen, and we can't go anywhere near his ship, except for that really, really stupid moment where he gets a spacesuit built out of xenonite so he can walk into Rocky's ship. That is a pure invention of the screenplay. It's very clear that not only is Rocky's ship off limits, but it is also pitch black inside. There's a reason these things don't have eyes. So when they go to the planet at the very end, it's like these lush vistas with waterfalls and sunlight. I'm like, nope. Anyhow, the moment I want to talk about is Rocky does get grievously injured saving Grace, and he does sleep for a couple of days, I believe. And again, we're on a ticking clock here. Mm-hmm. So in the book, they do spend a lot of time where it's like, we spent weeks studying this, we spent hours hashing this out. You're like, yes. And every moment that you're not able to actually do something, forward momentum, people are going crazy back on Earth. But it's also the process, because you can't rush science. That's an ongoing theme of the book.
Okay.
So Rocky gets horribly sick, and he's got this black like soot that starts coming out of the vents on his head. Mm-hmm. He's got much more features in the novel instead of just being literally a rock with legs in the movie, which is kind of disappointing. But as this stuff is coming out of him, it looks really bad. And Grace decides, I'm going to help him out. So he comes up with this concoction that he figures out can actually help clean that stuff out of his body. And it turns out, because he's an alien, that stuff that was coming out of his body was Rocky's way of healing himself, and he almost killed his friend. And he gets admonished for it, and he feels really bad. And there's like this whole beat in the book of like, I was just trying to help. He's like, yeah, well, just be careful how you try and help next time. So they have a big tension. And that's something else that is a disappointment in the book and also in the movie, which is the idea of the magical undiscovered species. On Earth, human beings, there's a fear that we're going to rip each other apart because our planet's dying. We're fighting over resources and everything. Cute, cuddly alien world, and everyone appears to get along. There's no like, oh my gosh, you brought this alien god to our planet, and we're just going to have him teach science. Like, there's no sense of personality or individualism or
tension.
Strife,
there's natural
tension. It is just the myth of the, hey, before those evil white people came to America, all the Native Americans here were just kumbaya, and they never fought with each other because they're superhuman. It's just that idea that gets kind of translated over, I think, too much into popular culture, especially when you're talking about alien species outside of like Star Trek or something, where they understood that, everywhere you go, you're there, kind of thing. Again, it kind of bugged me. And that's going back to the source material. I will say one improvement the movie made over the book is that Ryland Grace cries a lot during the book. And it's not like it's very awkward because of the structure and the visual structure of reading an exchange between two characters. It's like I found out something sad, and then I'm like wiping tears away from my eyes and like gushing and crying. Like there's no build up, there's no release. It's just like, and I was wiping tears away, and then like 20 pages later, and I was uncontrollably crying. Like it's hard to explain, but imagine if, Don, you told me something that was kind of depressing, and all of a sudden I'm gushing and wiping tears away. It's sloppy writing. I think that's handled much better in the book because there's only a couple of those moments, like when he's mourning his friends and kind of jettisoning the bodies onto space. That was a very kind of touching moment. I think Ryan Gosling was excellent in that moment, but there's just too much like wackiness and inconsistency in the translation for me to recommend this. But again, I am this movie's at like 95% on the tomato meter, so everybody loves Project Hail Mary. I almost said The Martian because they both end the same. Anyhow,
go ahead, Katie.
I would say what you guys are talking about with the end when Rocky's planet is just welcoming Ryland and all that stuff. You can put the focus on Ryland, but the fact is Rocky is the one who would have brought Ryland in. And it's like if Ryland brought Rocky to Earth after Ryland saved Earth and basically the universe, I feel like there's going to be a major bit of leeway to the fact that it's like, okay, you know what? If not for this creature, the universe would not be what it is, and we'd probably all die. So we're gonna lower our
build him a little dome, have his little oxygen bubble.
We're gonna make you a big, ammonium playpen that you can play with and all that stuff. And that's what they did for Ryland, because it's not like the planet has the water. They made that water for him and enclosed the sky and all that stuff. So that's why it looks like that. Do I know what it looks like? Really? No. But I want those damn little Rocky students, and I want Rocky.
I'll take a room full of those too.
Very mad that they did not have plush items for us at either of those screenings. And even the Project Hail Mary gear. I mean, come on, man. Amazon, where are you selling that stuff? Like,
can I just underscore this is the entire problem, okay? We're talking about a science fiction film, ostensibly a science fiction film that get people interested in science, okay? Like you're talking about you want to take kids to go see it and all this other stuff. You're saying I don't care about how they built this environment for this human being, but I want the plush toys.
Well, like, I'm not saying I don't care. I mean, obviously it's science. Like you're going to experiment because that's the point. And I actually like the fact that they did that in this film. It's like if they show a film where it's just like, oh, we found the answer. That's not how science is. You're going to have like
you're gonna build a box
failed experiments, like in every single case. Like, I mean, in computers, like so many different aspects of science, there's going to have, you're gonna find something that works. You're gonna have to try that again and like 2, 3, 4 times to make sure that it actually works. And a lot of people don't realize that and think like, oh, well, that should be fine. You should be able to find your cure. You should be able to find this so easily. And it's not that. And you have to try and try and try again. With Ryland Grace, I don't know how long he's been there. I don't know what the engineers did to make that situation on the planet. But that's not one of the questions I have. Like, because I mean, I like the fact that he was alone on Earth. He had no friends. That's one of the reasons why they're like, look, you don't even have a dog. That's one of the reasons. That's what Eva says to him. It's like, you have no family, you have no friends, you have this job, you don't even have a dog. Like, you are the perfect candidate. And his thing, it's like, I don't want to die. It's like, well, don't think of it as dying. Think of it as, saving all of these families and children and all these people. And to see him,
which is also, that would be an interesting idea to explore. Why would he care about all those people and friends and the people of Earth? Because as you just said, he has no one in his life. He has no connection to people.
Yeah, that's what Eva said. And that's what, when he has his connection with Rocky, and then at the end where even Rocky says, like, is it time to go back? He's like, maybe not yet. And then he has the students that, he sees the joy and they're like, bouncing up and down and stuff like that. He seems like he's found the place that he's meant to be. And that happiness of teaching them like what, obviously these kids are probably way smarter than he is. And he has even said many times in the film that it's like, this thing probably thinks I'm an idiot. It's like, oh, you're not tapping the glass. You're pointing to the thing you left for me. Okay. Yeah. I'm an idiot. Okay, great. And I love the fact that this character does that. Cause he is brilliant, but it's like when you're dealing with an alien species that is light years beyond in intelligence and engineering and everything that he does, that he can take that. It's like, look, this guy knows way more than me. I got to try and catch up and see if we can like mesh together. But then, the thing at the end, I just love the fact that it's like, this is where he's supposed to be. He can still save Earth, but, he doesn't have to meet the demise that was the thing that was the main reason why he didn't want to go on this mission. And who knows, he's probably going to live longer than all of us because time is crazy in space and all that stuff. So that's the thing. It's not like I'm not thinking about how they made this world for Ryland, because if Rocky can make his little portable thing for him, then I feel like that shouldn't be a hard thing to do that for Ryland on their planet.
Yeah, Gosling is the Oscar of this, not the Felix of this. It's but you're enhanced by the screw up sometimes. We're made better by the the bums we keep around, and if Rocky is superior, it shows, but at the same time they need each other, and that's the complementary part of the story and part of the journey, and the appreciation showed by Rocky at the end. And I love all that. So, and I got 98 middle schoolers who can't wait to see the movie. So,
but what we're talking about in the end with that biome is not science, that's magic, because the advancements in technology, let alone materials that you would need in order to create a replica of waterfalls and beaches and nature. They don't establish how long Ryland Grace has been on that planet, but it's not like we're looking at, Captain America at the end of Endgame where he's like suddenly 90 years old.
Yeah.
He's probably maybe been there a couple of years, maybe, but can you build me a Xenonite spaceship in a couple of years if you just found out yesterday what Xenonite is?
This is why we're in science fiction land. Let the smart aliens win and build things really cool.
But here's the thing. This is a dumb science movie problem that is not evident in the book. Okay? The book is science fiction with an emphasis on science. Science fiction does not mean we come up with magic things whenever we want to. That's more the lines of space fantasy. Good science fiction is rooted in the possible and extrapolating it into the what ifs. Not, hey, I've got this miracle thing that can just whip up, waterfalls on an alien environment that has never seen water before.
Yeah.
So is he not on the planet, on Rocky's planet at the end of the book?
Yes, he is.
There you go.
But Rocky's planet is very different than whatever it is we see at the end of this film. And it's consistent with what we know about Rocky. Yeah. It's what we would expect Rocky's planet to be like. And it's consistent with what they would be able to do with Ryland Grace. And it's not a great existence. It's clear that he's there for the bond of friendship he has with Rocky and the possibility of teaching these children. But it's also a big question of like, what kind of a person is he that he doesn't even consider going back to Earth to
he's
see
one
if
of these people help. Teachers teach, give us a room like where any two are gathered. Like he doesn't need much, and he's a guy who's a loner. Like he doesn't need a penthouse apartment. You give him a biome in a classroom. That's all you need. You're asking for again. You're in science fiction land, and you have places where science would be very forward. You have places where impossible is explained by fun pretend science because that's the point. Like same thing with galaxies far, far away and laser swords. And like you can skin that cat lots of different ways and have some things be really cool and some things just be That's just cool. That's just how it's going to look and be. You're like, I don't understand how the communications work in Star Wars, where there's a little hologram that stays right about here on a little thing in your hand, like, but it looks cool for a movie. But yet at the same time, we have the Force. Like, I mean, that's the creative freedom of these creators to kind of like, I'm going to pick what I want forward, I'm going to pick what I want secondary, and flex what I want to flex, and flaunt what I want to flaunt, and fluff what I want to fluff too. So I'm at peace with the balance here, but I get how people cannot be at peace with balance. So yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson will destroy this movie, and that's fine. He's supposed to, and he did The Martian. So yeah.
Well, I just want to clarify something. There's a difference between the holographic projector and Star Wars, because that is based. First of all, it's not science fiction; it's space opera, two completely different genres. And also, it's clear
the different
no,
fluffy corner of the store.
No, it's totally different. However, that takes place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It has nothing to do with what human beings know about
two
science.
Different features, sure. Again,
but
different shelf for the same fluffy store. We're
no,
Hallmark
because Project Hail Mary, much like The Martian, those are contemporary stories using what we know of contemporary science. The most unbelievable thing, or the most fantastical thing we're made to believe, is that they can build this, interstellar spacecraft within a couple of years. But they explain, they walk through all of that.
But you don't think contemporary things still borrow a little bit from the fun of the old times? Like, you don't see a little Verne in this, you don't see a little George Méliès in this. Like, we're still there playing around. We're still
what I'm saying is the movie is pretty straight with its science up until the very end, when it drifts into magic, right?
I see.
It's not like they say
magic now I'm going to turn into Chris Hemsworth with Thor, where what you call science, we call magic, and it's one and the same. Like, that's fluffy. Again, I can't stretch it to magic. Gandalf didn't show up in this movie. I'm sorry, man. Like, and Harry Potter's not twiddling around with a wand. I can't make that leap.
Magic is a strong word, but what I'm saying is
it is. So take it away, Ian.
Well, no, because it's beyond the realm of science,
which is why it's called science fiction. We're dilly dallying. We're making shit up as we go until we can figure out how we can explain.
No, Drew Goddard did it because he's not that smart. Okay, he doesn't have the scientific. He does not. I'm not talking about Jules Verne. I'm talking about this story.
Sure.
Based on this book, which was written by a very smart man who worked all of this stuff out, and didn't rely on the very end. Hey, we just made this happen. Okay. Sure. We just made this happen throughout the entire 476 pages, whether or not it's possible. I mean, because astrophage doesn't exist.
I know.
Okay. But they use it to fuel this ship to go to the stars, and they explain how they did that.
Sure.
But there's not a moment where at the end of the book you're like, well, how did they make a waterfall on a planet that doesn't have moisture?
Ian, this is as eternally it is on this show. This is
but isn't Rocky made of an element that's supposed to be gas, but he's a solid?
Yeah. So again, allow fiction to invade your science once in a while, okay? And let it be one and the same. And just play along. We all do. I don't ask how lightsabers work. I don't ask how George Méliès fires. I don't ask how Verne shoots a cannon to the moon, but it's compelling, and I'm there for it because there's human condition shit along the way, and that's what I'm here for. Like, I'd rather apply those fictions and values and stylistic pieces to a human condition thing, or that just happens to pivot through a rock for once, or a dude who plays, who can cure flowers. Like, we've done this with many different shapes and forms where we're still on hero's journey redemptive thing. Like, these are all the same stories. We just want to apply different fiction and apply different science in different fluffs and forwards.
So you're saying that you've never seen a bad science fiction film?
Oh, no, plenty. It just depends on which ones compel you, which ones don't, which ones convince you to have a little fun with the science, which ones.
I'm talking about where do you draw the line between silly science and real science? What you might want to call.
I see. This is where I got to go for artist intent and where they're going, and then at the same time, the leap we're trying to do here is book versus movie at the same time. So like, you're asking to jump this hurdle twice with one horse, and that's a hard thing to do. Like, because like Michael Bay's Transformers, you could tell he really said, how can I take a car and do exploded view and turn it into a robot after it was a Camaro. And he did it way better than an animated 80s show ever could. Maybe too good, where we're like, okay, now it's a little too heavy. Can we just have robots that punch each other? You're like, and so like, it just depends on where you want to apply your science, where you want to apply your fiction, and can you do that in a way that, I don't know, still hits you as a person? Am I off base here, Katie? You're looking at me.
I was gonna say, you want to know silly science? Alien Earth episode 6. In space, they can't hear you. Blank, blank, blank. I actually talked about this with a patient yesterday, where it's like I had to apologize to the crew of Alien Covenant because it's like, you know what? I thought you were the worst crew in space I have ever seen in my life. It's like, I apologize. You are now way down on second because that crew is the worst people in science I have ever seen in my life. The fact that the lead science engineer is eating and drinking stuff while there are alien beings all around is one of the worst examples of science and science fiction I have ever seen in my life. And also, she is also, it hurts my heart that is a female character, that it's like, good Lord, what are you doing? Why did the writers do this? Why did they? I mean, it's horrible.
Respects,
that is horrible science.
Well, the other thing that's really egregious of that, and some of this stuff I think is maybe all part of a different conversation, and that is what's there for the convenience of the screenplay, whether it makes sense or not. And that in that show, that's all there because we've got to get one of these aliens loose. And we haven't thought it through enough in a clever enough way to figure out how to do that in a really clever way. No, we'll just have her being a sloppy, satiating scientist who, so overworked she's got to eat her sandwich right next to the, the petri dish.
You're onto something, Jeff. Well, you need. Can you make the unbelievable believable? Good science fiction can do it. Bad science fiction can't.
I mean, my one thought I was going to say is, they did introduce, and apparently this was not in the book because I read a little bit about what was in the book versus not. But they had that a couple scenes where Ryan Gosling is looking out on like almost like a holodeck. Like they've created a sense of that. I mean, did Rocky import that? I don't know. Maybe that would explain it, that he's made it to look someone like that. I'm not sure how they even do the holodeck per se. Going back to Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Now you're talking.
But I think there's elements of shortcuts and what we're emphasizing and things like that that I think, to your point, Ian, belie the better parts of science and science fiction, that they're lazy. And I think what Katie's example with Alien is a perfect one, because that's what drove me nuts about that show too, is these people aren't just dumb movie characters. They're supposed to be scientists, and they're the most stupid people I've ever seen on a show. And it's because the writers are too lazy to do any real homework and say, well, what do scientists do? How can we get this creature out of there, without it, just happening to be, because she's got her soup can open or whatever the hell it was. Oh.
Well, and it's one of the things.
I'm having flashbacks of pain from when we used to do those shows, Ian. They were so painful.
I don't know. It's one of those things like with that we've grown up with NASA and stuff like that. Like if you go in space, especially with these like missions, it's like you're supposed to be the best of the best. That is what has always been one of the things that has been driven into our head, that it's like, you need to know what you're doing. Like there have been hundreds, if not thousands of people who have applied to do this, but you're supposed to be the best of the best. And that is why you are on these things. Alien Earth is like, F that. I got a lottery ticket or I did this thing at the post office. Oh, you picked my number. I guess I'm going out into space.
It's a draft.
Yeah. I mean, it's worse than the little, like, what? $50 million you can pay to get in space for 2 minutes and then come back down. I mean, it's that, but it's like, it's that, but dumber.
By the way, there's so many good science fiction films that haven't succeeded, that haven't done well, that you look at the box office numbers and the critical scores for this one, it might even be worth a good show to do a deep dive. Like, there's so many great science fiction films that don't connect with audiences, maybe because they're too smart or people can't imagine them or whatever. But this one did, and maybe that's why they put some of the short circuit stuff that drove me crazy in it, because I think it's just too much of it. I think a little of it goes a long way. But maybe it's because there's more of it. That's what people are walking away from loving and wanting the plush toys. Where for me, a little bit of the cool alien at the end in Close Encounters, smiling at Francois Truffaut, was enough for me. He's still a mystery, still on that higher end, still that big mothership coming over the Devil's Peak, and holy crap! I mean, by the way, am I not right about that? Close Encounters is kind of an unheralded masterpiece. I don't know if that gets talked about nearly enough.
No, stuff when Jaws is there, you know.
It's hard when you go with Spielberg's movies, whether it be with all his alien film, not all of them. I don't know so much. I would say between E.T. and Close Encounters, not.
Well, see, that was also
War of the
hopeful.
Worlds
That
so
was
much.
a very hopeful movie. You
Yeah.
know, just like Katie's saying. I think that's part of the resonance of this is it's hopeful, and people think it's positive, it's upbeat. Because you know, you think about like Ad Astra, Ryan Gosling's The First Man. Those films did not do well, and they're darker, sadder, more grounded stories. But maybe that's one of the decisions the studio says we can't have another Ad Astra. It's not enough for him to go in space just to find his dad. We need something that's more joyful.
Well, and I mean, you mentioned what is it, Sunshine, which I think is an amazing film.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I don't feel like a lot of people have even know about that movie, despite the fact that it's got like that cast is stacked, especially considering, I mean, you know, you've got Chris Evans and so many of the, I mean, how many Oscar winners and Oscar nominees that are now in that film, which is like is crazy. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Event Horizon is a great movie that's in space that has a lot of stuff going on in
How
it.
about Gattaca, but just wanting to be an astronaut, and the world of what you have to go through in the future to become one of those, and the privileged and the you know, you're already determined your fate by your DNA as soon as you're born. Oh my! And
I'd love to see the movie play today.
Movie, wasn't it?
Well, I think the point that Katie and Jeff are going at is that like we're not living in very hopeful times, and it's very good to see a movie that brings us some inspiration. I remember one person was giving me flack in the comment section on my reaction to the movie because I said, this movie's about inclusivity. This guy's like, no, it's not. What are you talking about? And then, you know, I was like, well, first off, this reaction was filmed 3 weeks ago, so I don't know how you saw the movie. Yeah. And then second off, it's a movie about a human and an alien working together to save each other's planets. It's like no matter how different they are, no matter where they come from, it's all about them working together to build a better future. And it was beautifully done.
That's one of the reasons I always love Star Trek. Just going back to the original gangster. I mean, I know all the Star Treks have kind of done the same thing, but you know, they kind of went there a little bit with this. Where like different types of people can get along, and you know, I always love Star Trek suggested that we made it through our worst impulses of war and other things. You know, that somehow we could actually become a federation of planets. What? Not just the United States with all these other countries in the United Nations, but a very federation of planets.
Yeah,
pretty good.
Well, here's to hope.
Thank you for letting us roll there for a bit there, Ian.
Words of encouragement. Words of encouragement. Yes. Words of great encouragement.
Great encouragement. Amazing.
Now they can just come out with the toys for Katie. Toys for Katie.
There you go.
I am Kana. Yeah.
He moved like a crab, and he was stoned. So does that make him a stone crab?
Well, I'll ask Joe's Crab Check, and they'll know.
See, they're gonna have the dinner items at.
Oh no, that's the alternate ending to the movie. The humans colonize the alien planets. They take all the rocks and they start cooking them.
Wouldn't that be something? I'd buy that for.
That's why. That's why they shouldn't save humanity.
Not on Red Lobster. Endless Rocky.
Endless Rocky.
Oh man, with some of that bread they have. Oh yeah.
And all those breadsticks and salad bar you can eat.
Yeah.
How to serve Rocky.
It's a cookbook.
It's a cookbook. Go into Twilight Zone. Thanks,
Jeff.
I'm
trying to make you laugh a little bit, Ian, and you're not laughing.
He's not gonna.
Okay.
No. This is one of the most depressing conversations I've ever had in my life. Anyhow, we're going to go, and we won't be back next week because I don't know if I can go on, but I don't think there's anything opening worth note of talking about. So I'm going to take a break. I'll be back in a couple of weeks, probably talking the Mario movie. And we have been Earth's Mightiest Critics talking about Project Hail Mary. And I am, as always, Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat, Don Shanahan of Film Obsessive, Every Movie Has a Lesson, and the Cinephile Hissy Fit podcast. I think I got all that right. Jeff York of the Establishing Shot and Pipeline Artist, Katie Glidewell, the blonde in front, and Mike Crowley of You'll Probably Agree. I'm glad you were able to pop back in, Mike. Sorry, I hope I was. I hope I wasn't keeping it there in the waiting room too long.
Wait, were there any comments or anything that?
Yes, and I'm not going to read them because I didn't read my disclaimer initially. I did take a peek at the comments. I know Petty wrote something. Sorry, but I'm not going to open up that side panel because someone
it's a little
spent multiple comments writing. Well, we lost Jeff.
Yeah, a good acrostic poem just about that one. Yeah,
spelling out something very offensive across multiple comments. So not going to dignify that.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So anyhow, we're going to go and thanks everyone. If you like this show, please like, subscribe, and all that business. Support all of Earth's Mightiest critics down below. Their information is there. And until next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, thank you very much. Take care. And where's Jeff? I don't know. Where'd Jeff go? We lost him.
Irish goodbye.
Oh, I like it.